Hello, everybody. Now that we've gotten our introduction with a thesis and thesis map taken care of, we can get started on our body paragraphs. This is where most of your important information is going to show up. It's where most of your work is going to be seen. So we want to put a lot of good effort into this, and we also want to make sure that we're doing it correctly. So that's what I'm here for, and that's what we're going to learn. Now, an effective argumentative body paragraph only really has three components. You have a topic sentence, and then you have evidence and analysis that you'll repeat over and over and over again until your point is proven. Now, when I say paragraph, I mean that, this is really a section of your paper. Every section could be more than one paragraph, especially if you have enough evidence to back it up. And the more evidence you use, generally, the better your paper comes off. So consider doing more than one paragraph if you have enough evidence to back it up. Topic sentences are the easiest point, and they're also where we start a body paragraph. So what's the point of a topic sentence? Well, your reader needs to know what you're arguing in that paragraph. So in no uncertain terms, the first sentence of that paragraph should let your reader know what's being argued there. You don't want to save it for later. You're not writing a mystery. They need to know from the beginning. So I do give an example here of how to start your first sentence if you need to. It says the first stage of grief Holden clearly exhibits is, and then you would list that stage, and then the rest of the paragraph would prove to me that in fact he does exhibit that stage of the grief. You can also, if you're going chronologically, say the first action that Holden does that really proves that he's grieving is, and that would work just as well. Just remember that the idea here is your reader should know what you're arguing in this paragraph from the very beginning. Evidence is where we get into the actual stuff that you're showing in the book. So anything that you found that proves that Holden is grieving is going to qualify under evidence. When you set up your evidence, before you even give your quote or your paraphrase, you want to give me context for when this happened. So what was going on in the book when this quote took place? What do I need to know to better understand the quote? Anything like that should happen before I read the quote. Otherwise, it's just going to confuse me as your reader. So make sure that all that information shows up before the evidence actually gets dropped. Once you drop evidence, you have two different types that you can choose from. And I want you to use a little bit of both. I want to see direct evidence and I want to see a paraphrase. Direct evidence is word for word from the book. So when you do that, you put it in quotation marks. And when you finish that quote, you're going to put an in-text citation, which is just in parentheses the author's last name and the page number where you found that quote. You can use the page number from the PDF or the physical book, depending on what you're looking at. A paraphrase is in your own words, so you summarize what happened in that moment. Now, you don't need quotation marks when you're using your own words because they already belong to you and your name's at the top of the paper. However, you still need to cite that evidence. So wherever it happens in the book, you got to put an author's last name and you got to put the page number where it happens. That shows to me that you're not just making up this thing that's in your own words, that it actually did happen in the book, and you can point to where it happened by giving me a page number. After you've given a piece of evidence, you always want to analyze it. This is the step that a lot of writers skip because they just want the reader to fill in the blanks for them. They want us to connect the dots, but really that's your job as the writer. So you want to make those connections. You don't want to assume that I'm going to get that this piece of evidence definitely shows that Holden's going through denial. No, you need to say that explicitly. This shows denial because, and then tell me how this piece of evidence actually is denial. Maybe you're just going to use the definition of denial to back that up. Tell me what denial is. Show me how this is clearly him being in denial. That totally works, but you need to figure out a way to prove to me that it is in fact the step that you're talking about. And if you just need to connect it back to your topic sentence, that's another way to do it. But just make sure that you're staying on task and using your topic sentence as guidance when you try to analyze your evidence. You're going to do that over and over again, by the way, because you're going to have multiple pieces of evidence. If you don't have much evidence, that's probably not a point you want to be arguing. You want to argue the points that you have plenty of evidence for. So when you drop your evidence and when you analyze your evidence, those two steps get repeated over and over and over again until you've run out of evidence to prove it. Once you do get done with that section, whether you're proving a stage of grief or whether you're proving a major event that Holden does that proves that he's grieving, when you move on to your next step, you want to consider adding a hook to your next topic sentence. And a hook is pretty easy. You just take a word or phrase from the last sentence in the paragraph before, and you use it again in the next sentence that also includes your topic sentence. That way, you're showing that they're connected and you're proving that your arguments build on one another as opposed to just being random evidence that you're throwing at me in some weird scattershot way. So keep that in mind as you're working. Hooks are a great way to prove your organization scheme and make your paragraphs seem like they belong where they belong. With that in mind, you are ready to start your first body paragraph. You're actually ready to write all of the paragraphs other than the acceptance body paragraph, which we'll talk about next week. So, however you want to go about this, I do want you to open up your catcher essay doc that I shared with you earlier this week and get at least one of your body paragraphs written today. I will give you some time to work on body paragraphs next week as well, so don't feel like you have to write them all today. But if you're in the mode and you're ready to put more than one down, go for it. I'm not going to judge you for it. So, take care of yourselves, wash your hands, get at least one body paragraph written, and I will see you again next week. Have a good one, guys.